Without further ado, I'll call up Scott Brick, Hillary Huber, and Pat Fraley, who are 3 audiobook experts, actors, trainers, who we can learn a lot from. The sound of an audiobook today is very different, and some other questions came in about how do men handle performing women's voices and women handle performing men's voices.
Well, first of all, you don't want to play gender. You want to play the attitude. When women generally do men, they'll go like this, right? And men will kind of be effeminate. Don't go too far because you'll break the suspension of disbelief. What Scott does is puts a little air underneath when he delivers a female, just a little bit more air going through, and then follow that idea of more engagement than men, just generally.
It's going up at the end of women's sentences and down at the men's. It's, why won't you talk to me? I don't feel like talking. Tell me how you feel. I feel like not talking. I'm not doing anything crazy with my voice. There's a little breath in there. It's aspirating just a little bit, but not too much. Sometimes people will, instead of doing an imitation of a certain actor, instead they'll just try to capture their cadence or their rhythm. I'm never going to sound like Leonard Nimoy, but that cadence he had, you are my superior officer. You are also my friend. I have been and always shall be yours. I can do that till the cows come home.
It's hard to sustain a put-on voice for 10, 15 hours, but you've been sustaining yourself your whole life.
And all that matters in audiobooks is, does the listener know who's speaking at all times?
Penny Jackson knew that it was probably wrong to be so excited to see her ex-husband come crawling back. But she was willing to live with the character flaw. He's going to want to hire you, her friend Naomi said. Oh, yeah. The sweet smell of validation. Penny leaned back in her chair and considered the possibilities.
You notice what she does? She puts a lot of character into the narrator. And I love that. People always ask me, should you do that? Yes, you should do that. Authors want you to do that. So when Pat was saying, let's hear that kind of settling into the chair, I thought maybe she was going to do it on the line.
Me too.
I want him to beg. But you know what she did? She goes, she settled back into the chair. She did it on the narrative.
And we buy that all day long as a listener.
Oh, yeah.
We want to be guided into how we're supposed to think and feel by the narrator.
The wonderful part about the beginning of this, it's a third-person narrator who is sitting in judgment on the main character. She's like, well, she knew it was wrong, but she's willing to live with the character flaw. Go ahead and give it just a little, invest it with just a little bit more of that feel. And when you learn to treat the narrative as acting, it's a person. It's just not the person in the story.
But it shapeshifts also a third-person narrative, and I think it gives you the opportunity. Mary walks into the kitchen, and you're seeing it from her point of view, and then maybe you cut to the den where Bob is watching television, and it's the same narrator who's taking you through the house into each person's room. But it's a great opportunity to slightly shift that narrator's attitude based on who they're watching. Yeah. Mary may be mad at Bob.
It can be
Bob
very
may
subjective.
have no idea.
Yeah.
It's a follow shot.
It's a follow shot, exactly.
She was walking down the hallway, not sure of what she would find. She took a few steps closer to the kitchen. There was a man with a baseball bat waiting for her. I've just shifted from her to him. But it could be she was walking down the hallway, almost next to the kitchen. There was a baseball bat. You could go the other way. What guides you? Your intuition. There's no time.
Just try to always make sure that you're bringing something to the story. Sometimes, especially if you're not very familiar with a piece or you're not familiar with the genre, you're going to read it kind of neutral. Don't be neutral.
Because if we say something like, there's something wrong with my brother. I don't know what it is. He could be crazy. Yeah, that's what it is. He's crazy. Now I'm going down on every sentence, and the audience goes, he's done. No, he's not. He's good. Right? You're cueing the audience wrong. There's something wrong with my brother. I don't know what it is. Could be crazy. Yeah, that's what it is. You see, now I brought it. That's the way we think and feel and build. We build, and then go down.
And if you can add just that little hint of character that you did to the best friend, it just plays for miles in the final product.
Particularly in your demos, because you want publishers and producers to go, oh, she gets it. Oh, I don't think I want to go, she said, laying down the chair. The producers go, oh, She knows how to realize story and some interesting choices.
Set against the consuming blackness of space, the Earth is a beguiling blue-green ball. Barely 24 people have ever experienced the emotion of seeing our planet from the moon and beyond. Yet the fragile beauty of the pictures they sent back home is engraved in the minds of a generation. Nothing compares. Petty human squabbles over borders and oil and creed vanish in the knowledge that this living marble surrounded by infinite emptiness is our shared home, and more, a home we share with and owe to the most wonderful inventions of life.
Here's something to keep in mind with nonfiction. That person spent a long time researching whatever this topic is, and it is incredibly dear to their heart. We tend to think nonfiction is a reporting. You're reporting something. It's not a story. You're not acting, but you're really still telling a story, and it's a really important, intimate one.
I always try to also look for moments where an author is injecting something that isn't necessary, but it's very evocative. And there's that great 2-word line, nothing compares. It's a judgment. The author is sharing technical information, then all of a sudden they say nothing compares. And you can have like this nice, whether it's not fast or slow or clipped or whatever your cadence is as you're delivering the information. When you get to the 2 words, that little injection there, that little judgment, nothing compares. Make that personal. This is where the author is telling you, this is cool. And they have a lot of natural enthusiasm for what they're doing. Like, as Hillary says, you want to share that enthusiasm. And so moments like that are perfect for that.
"Bunny," he said to me, sitting down into the booth with an audible expunging of air. He still used my childhood name. No one else did. He had roared through his trust fund money so fast that by the end of college, he was down to pocket change. Now his face had permanent alcoholic flush. He didn't give me a hug because we don't do that. "I see you've gotten started. You're having a martini?" I nodded. "Morning tune-up," I said. "Brave choice." Branford grinned, simultaneously waving down the server. "Waitress," he said, pointing to my drink, "I'll have one of those."
This is a good example that to bring up something, and Scott, you tell them about dishonoring punctuation.
It doesn't exist in human speech. It's a human manufactured thing that we do to approximate human speech. It's a visual cue. Now, we have to turn those visual cues into oral cues.
And another way to look at it is an author is in punctuation prison, and we have the key to get him out.
Like there in this previous piece, "Brave choice," Branford grinned, simultaneously waving down the server. The way that's written is "brave choice, comma, Branford grinned," simultaneously waving down the server. That means Branford grinned the line. You actually can't do that. But you know what I'm saying. So what I'll do, I'll sometimes dishonor the punctuation.
Show how you do
I'll
it with
say,
that one.
yeah, "Brave choice." Branford grinned, simultaneously waving down the server. I just change the comma to a period. And that's all I do. I make it sound like it's 2 sentences. You have to figure out when to break the rules. That's all. Do it judiciously.
Now, there's only one other thing I'm going to point out because it's picky, but it's something we all bumped into, and that's the concept of attributions, he said, she said, after we say something. Well, there's a theory that when you read a book, you don't really see the he said, she said much, and the same thing orally. We don't bother with them. Scott's great at it because he go, "Hi," he said. "What have you been doing?" she said. "Not much. How about you?" she said. Just throw them away, right? But one thing that we oftentimes do is, especially with questions, is we don't get schizophrenic and come from the character back to the narrator. And I noticed that you said, "Are you going home?" he said. "No, you got to get out of it." "Are you going home?" Then get back to reporting it.
The
he said.
attribution, the he said or she said is the attribution. You're attributing it to a certain character. That's a statement, even if the dialogue's a question. "How are you?" he said.
Yeah, right here, Julie, like, "Waitress," you went,
Right.
he said, pointing to my drink, right? "Waitress," he said, pointing to my drink.
I'd say if I was going to break this down into a tip, put everything that you know, everything that you have in your arsenal. All the skills you have as an actor, you utilize them in audiobooks.
You really need to pay attention to the book and what the author's intent is with that particular book. And that's your primary goal, is to fulfill the author's intent. They spent a lot of time writing this book, and it's your job to make it sound the way they heard it in their head to the best of your ability.
The three of us, we teach classes together, and I always try to leave everybody with a little bit of advice, and I always say, I always tell people to tell jokes. A joke has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if you can get from one to the next to the last, if you can do it in the micro version, you can do it in the macro version. As Jason said at the very beginning, listen to audiobooks. You don't have to listen to the whole thing if you go to one of those two websites. You can hear an excerpt from it there, as you can with every book on Audible. Listen to the same kind of genre you think you might be working in or that you're auditioning for, and it'll give you a sense for how that genre is handled on audio.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thanks for coming.